Part 1. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with angry voices. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the galaxy were shouting at each other. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Vexthor. His body was made of crystal that glowed with different colors depending on his mood. Right now he was bright red with anger. He raised one of his forearms to get everyone's attention. The room slowly became quiet. All eyes turned to look at him. He took a deep breath before speaking. 300 of our people are dead, he said in a voice that echoed through the massive chamber. Our mining facility on Krell 7 has been completely destroyed. The damage is worth billions of credits. And all of this was done by one single human. The room erupted again. Aliens jumped from their seats. Some were shouting in disbelief. Others were demanding immediate action. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. They had brought peace to 1,000,000 worlds. They had technology that seemed like magic. And now they were being told that one human had caused this much destruction. Council Prime Zarnik sat on the highest platform in the chamber. She was old, even by the standards of her long-lived species. Her skin was covered in silver scales that had seen countless debates and decisions. She had guided the Council through wars and peace treaties, but she had never seen anything like this. Silence, she commanded. Her voice was not loud, but it carried authority that made everyone stop talking. Ambassador Vexthor, explain to us how this happened. Humans are a new species in our community. They have no powerful weapons. They have no war fleet. How did one human destroy your facility? Vexthor's crystal body flickered. It was a sign that he was uncomfortable with what he had to say next. We do not fully understand it ourselves, Council Prime. Let me show you the surveillance recordings. A massive hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. Everyone watched as the images played out before them. The recording showed a human male walking into the mining facility. He looked ordinary in every way. He wore simple work clothes. He carried a small bag over his shoulder. Nothing about him suggested he was dangerous. The human approached the front desk where a security officer sat. The audio came through clearly. My name is Jake Morrison, the human said. I need to speak with your foreman about the working conditions here. Your workers are being forced to work 20-hour shifts. That violates council labor laws. The security officer laughed at him. Humans have no authority here. Leave before I have you arrested. Jake Morrison stood there for a moment. He seemed to be thinking about something. Then he nodded slowly. I tried to do this the right way, he said quietly. Remember that. What happened next was almost too fast to follow. Jake Morrison moved through the facility like he had worked there his entire life. He did not use any weapons. He did not hack into computer systems. Instead, he simply walked from station to station, touching controls, adjusting settings, and redirecting power flows. The aliens watching the recording saw him enter the power control room. He spent exactly 3 minutes there. When he left, warning alarms started going off throughout the facility. Jake moved to the mining laser controls next. He changed their targeting systems, pointing them at support structures instead of rock walls. In the refinery section, he opened valve systems that were supposed to stay closed. Dangerous chemicals began mixing in ways they were never meant to mix. In the reactor room, he pulled a single control rod and adjusted the cooling system by a few degrees. Each action by itself seemed small. But Jake Morrison understood something that the aliens did not. He understood how all these systems connected to each other. He knew that if you changed one small thing, it would cause changes in other systems. Those changes would cause more changes. And if you knew exactly what to adjust, you could create a cascade effect that would bring down the entire facility. The recording showed Jake Morrison walking calmly toward the exit. Behind him, the facility was beginning to tear itself apart. Lasers cut through support beams. Chemical reactions created explosions. The reactor started overheating. Workers ran in panic, trying to escape. Jake Morrison reached the landing pad where his ship was waiting. He climbed aboard and launched just as the main reactor went critical. The explosion consumed the entire facility. When the dust settled, nothing remained but a crater in the ground. The hologram disappeared. The council chamber was completely silent. Every alien representative was trying to process what they had just seen. This was not how primitive species were supposed to behave. Humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be easy to control. Where is this human now? Zarnik asked. Vexthor's color changed to a darker shade of red. We do not know, Council Prime. He left Krell 7 immediately after the incident. Our tracking systems lost him in the asteroid fields near the border territories. Why did he do this? Another council member asked. What did he want? According to our investigation, the human was telling the truth about the labor violations, Vexthor admitted reluctantly. The facility manager was forcing workers to work excessive hours without proper rest or compensation. Several workers had died from exhaustion in the past month. Jake Morrison had filed official complaints through proper channels. All of his complaints were ignored. Zarnik leaned back in her seat. This complicated things. The council prided itself on justice and fairness. If their own facilities were violating labor laws, that was a serious problem. But that did not excuse mass murder. 300 beings were dead. That required justice of a different kind. The human's complaints do not justify his actions, Zarnik declared. He must be brought to trial for his crimes. Ambassador Vexthor, coordinate with our enforcement fleet. Send a team to apprehend Jake Morrison. Use whatever resources are necessary. Vexthor bowed. It shall be done, Council Prime. How many ships should we send? Zarnik thought about this. The human had been clever, yes, but he was still just one person in a small ship. Send 5 ships. That should be more than enough to capture one human. Make sure he cannot escape. We will make an example of him so that no other species dares to defy council authority. The council members nodded in agreement. They thought this decision was wise. They thought 5 military ships would easily capture one human. They had no idea that they had just made the worst decision in their civilization's entire history. As the council session ended, and the representatives filed out of the chamber, none of them could have imagined what would happen next. They did not understand humans. They did not understand that when you hunt one human, you make enemies of them all. They were about to learn this lesson in the hardest way possible. Captain Drental stood on the bridge of his battlecruiser and smiled. He was a Vortan, a species known throughout the galaxy for their military excellence. His dark blue skin was covered with battle scars that he wore proudly. Each scar told a story of combat and victory. He had served in the enforcement fleet for 30 years and had never failed a single mission. Captain, we have received our orders from the council, his communications officer reported. Drental read the mission brief on his display screen. He read it once, then read it again to make sure he understood correctly. Then he laughed. It was a deep, rumbling laugh that made his crew turn to look at him with confusion. They want me to take 5 warships to capture one human, he said, still chuckling. This is insulting. What do they think I am? A training instructor for new recruits. His first officer, a serious female Vortan named Kessa, approached him. The brief says this human destroyed an entire mining facility. Perhaps the council has good reason to send multiple ships. Drental waved his hand dismissively. The human got lucky. He probably sabotaged some equipment when no one was looking. Once we corner him in open space, he will have nowhere to hide and no equipment to sabotage. This will be the easiest mission of my career. The fleet departed from council headquarters 2 hours later. Drental's battlecruiser led the way, followed by 4 escort vessels. Each ship was equipped with enough firepower to level a small city. Their shields could withstand direct hits from nuclear weapons. Their sensor arrays could track a single ship across an entire star system. Finding Jake Morrison proved easier than expected. The enforcement fleet arrived at Outpost Liberty, a trading station on the edge of council space. The station master was a nervous creature called a Talarian. His name was Kix, and he had too many eyes and not enough courage. Yes, the human was here, Kix said, his multiple eyes darting around anxiously. He bought supplies and fuel. He left about 2 hours ago on a cargo hauler. He said he was heading toward the Viridian cluster. Did he say why he was going there? Kessa asked. Kix shook his head rapidly. He did not talk much. He paid in credits, legal ones. He broke no laws while he was here. I had no reason to stop him. Drental felt a surge of satisfaction. 2 hours was nothing. His ships were fast. They would catch up to a slow cargo hauler easily. Send our thanks to the station master. Prepare the fleet for pursuit. Maximum speed, the hunt began. Drental's fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel, following the trajectory toward the Viridian cluster. Their sensors tracked the energy signature of Jake Morrison's cargo hauler. Within 1 standard day, they had visual confirmation of their target. The cargo hauler was exactly what its name suggested. It was a large, boxy ship designed to carry goods between planets. It had no visible weapons. Its shields were minimal. designed only to protect against space debris. It was the kind of ship that civilians used for honest trade. "Surround the vessel," Drental ordered. "Weapons lock. Prepare boarding teams. This ends now." The 5 warships moved into position, forming a perfect box around the cargo hauler. There was no escape. Every direction was blocked by a military vessel with charged weapons. Drental opened a communication channel. "Attention cargo vessel. This is Captain Drental of the Council Enforcement Fleet. You are harboring a criminal named Jake Morrison. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." For a long moment there was no response. Drental was about to repeat his demand when the communication channel crackled to life. "This is Jake Morrison." The voice was calm, almost casual. The human spoke Galactic Standard with an accent, but his words were clear. "Captain, I know you are just doing your job. But you really do not want to do this. Turn your ships around. Go back to the Council. Tell them you could not find me." Drental laughed again. "Human, you are in no position to make demands. You are surrounded by 5 warships. Your vessel has no weapons and no shields worth mentioning. Surrender now and I promise you will face a fair trial." "I gave you a chance," Jake Morrison said. There was something in his voice now. Not anger, not fear. Something else. Sadness, maybe. "Remember that I tried to warn you." "Enough talk," Drental snapped. "Power down your engines now or I will disable your ship by force." "You do not understand," Jake Morrison said. "I do not need weapons to fight you. Everything I need is already here." Before Drental could respond, his sensors officer shouted a warning. "Captain, the cargo vessel is venting its fuel supply." On the main display screen, Drental watched as the cargo hauler opened its fuel tanks. Massive amounts of hydrogen gas poured out into the space between the ship and the fleet. Within seconds, a huge cloud of highly flammable gas surrounded all 6 vessels. "What is he doing?" Kessa asked. Drental suddenly understood. His eyes went wide with horror. "All ships, emergency thrust. Get away from that cloud now." He was too late. Jake Morrison fired a single mining charge into the hydrogen cloud. The explosion was massive beyond calculation. The entire cloud ignited at once, creating a fireball that engulfed the entire area. 2 of Drental's escort ships were caught in the center of the blast. Their shields overloaded instantly. The heat melted their hulls. Both ships exploded, killing everyone on board. A 3rd escort ship was thrown tumbling through space, its engines destroyed and half its crew dead. Drental's battlecruiser survived because it was furthest from the explosion center, but the blast still hit them hard. Warning alarms screamed throughout the ship. His shields were down to 30%. Multiple systems were damaged or offline. "Status report," Drental shouted over the chaos on his bridge. 2 escorts destroyed. Kessa reported, her voice shaking. 1 escort heavily damaged and drifting. "We have significant damage to our sensor array and navigation systems. Weapons are still functional, but targeting is compromised." "Where is the human ship?" Kessa checked her displays. Her face went pale. "Gone, sir. He used the explosion as cover. While our sensors were blinded by the blast, he jumped to faster-than-light travel. We have no idea which direction he went." Drental sat down heavily in his command chair. He stared at the debris field where 2 of his ships had been moments before. Hundreds of his crew members were dead. His perfect record was destroyed, and the human was gone. "Sir, what are your orders?" Kessa asked quietly. Drental thought about lying in his report. He thought about claiming they had been ambushed by a fleet of ships instead of 1 cargo hauler. But he knew the truth would come out. The sensor logs would show everything. "Send a priority message to Council Command," he said, his voice hollow. "Tell them we engaged the human target. Tell them we lost 2 ships and a 3rd is crippled. Tell them the human escaped." He paused, hating what he had to say next. "Tell them we need reinforcements. Many reinforcements." The response from the Council came back within hours. They were sending 15 more ships, not 5. Not 10, 15. Because now the Council understood something important. This was not about 1 criminal anymore. This was about their pride. This was about showing the entire galaxy that no one, especially not a human, could defy Council authority and survive. But what they still did not understand was that every ship they sent was teaching Jake Morrison more about how their systems worked. Every attack gave him more information about their tactics and technology. And Jake Morrison was a very fast learner. The hunt continued. but now it was unclear who was hunting whom. Fleet Commander Sarkesh was not like Captain Drental. She did not laugh at her enemies. She did not underestimate anyone. She had survived the Krellian Wars by being careful, methodical, and ruthless. When the Council asked her to take command of the operation to capture Jake Morrison, she accepted without hesitation. But she also spent 3 days studying everything about the human before she even boarded her ship. She sat in her private quarters, reviewing files on multiple display screens. Her species, the Krathen, had excellent eyesight that let them see multiple screens at once. She used this ability now, reading through personnel records, cargo manifests, station logs, and surveillance footage. "Who are you, Jake Morrison?" she muttered to herself. The official files told her basic facts. Jake Morrison was 42 years old by Earth's calendar. He had worked as a cargo pilot for 15 years. He had no military training, no criminal record before the Krell 7 incident, no indication he was anything other than an ordinary human trying to make a living in a big galaxy. But Sarkesh looked deeper. She pulled up records of every route Morrison had flown over the past 15 years. She noticed a pattern. Morrison did not take the easy, profitable routes between major planets. Instead, he flew to frontier colonies, mining outposts, construction sites, and industrial stations. Places where things were built, where machines were maintained, where people worked with their hands. She also found something else interesting. At 17 different stations, Morrison had filed complaints about safety violations or labor law violations. Most of these complaints were ignored. At 5 stations, the violations were so serious that council inspectors eventually had to shut down operations. But by then, Morrison was always long gone, flying to his next destination. "You are not a warrior," Sarkesh said, studying an image of Morrison's face. "You are a problem solver. You see things that are broken and you fix them. But when people would not let you fix things the right way, you found another way." She understood something else too. Morrison had spent 15 years visiting industrial sites. He had seen thousands of machines, power systems, fuel processors, and manufacturing equipment. He had learned how everything worked. And more importantly, he had learned how everything could break. This was not a man who would be easy to capture. This was a man who could turn any environment into a weapon. Sarkesh took command of a fleet of 20 ships. This included the 3 surviving vessels from Drental's failed mission. She met with all her captains before they departed. "Listen carefully," she told them. "This human is not lucky. He is intelligent and resourceful. He uses our own technology against us. He finds weaknesses in systems we thought were secure. So we will not rely on technology to catch him. We will use strategy." She explained her plan. They would leak false information about a council convoy carrying prisoner transport ships. The convoy would be traveling through the Theta Nebula, a region of space filled with dense gas and dust that interfered with sensors. Morrison's record showed he had a pattern of trying to help prisoners escape from unfair sentences. Sarkesh was betting that his human emotions would make him take the bait. The trap was set. Sarkesh positioned her fleet within the nebula, hidden among the swirling clouds. The fake convoy traveled along the expected route, and they waited. "You think he will come?" her first officer asked. "He will come," Sarkesh said confidently. "Humans are emotional creatures. They cannot help themselves when they think someone needs help." She was right. 2 days later, sensors detected a small ship approaching the convoy from its blind side. It matched the energy signature of Jake Morrison's cargo hauler. "All ships maintain position," Sarkesh ordered quietly. "Let him get closer. When I give the signal, emerge from the nebula on all sides. Leave him no escape route." The human ship moved closer to the convoy. Sarkesh watched on her tactical display as Morrison's ship reached the perfect position. She smiled. She had him. "Now," she commanded. "All ships engage." 20 warships emerged from the nebula cloud simultaneously. They surrounded Morrison's cargo hauler in a sphere formation. Every weapon was charged and locked onto the target. There was no escape, no direction he could go without facing multiple armed vessels. Sarkesh opened a communication channel. "This ends now, human. You are completely surrounded. Your ship cannot outrun 20 vessels. You cannot fight 20 vessels. Surrender and you will live to face trial." Jake Morrison's voice came through the channel. He sounded tired. "Commander Sarkesh, I assume? I read about your service record. You are a smart officer. I respect that. So I am going to give you one chance. Order your ships to withdraw. Take your fleet and go home. You are in no position to make demands, Sarkesh replied. Actually, I am, Morrison said. You know what is interesting about nebulas? They are full of ionized gas, really reactive stuff. The Theta Nebula in particular has an unusual chemical composition. I have been studying it for the past 2 days while you were setting up your trap. Sarkesh felt the first stirring of concern. What are you talking about? You picked this location because it interferes with sensors, Morrison explained. But that also means the gas clouds are highly charged with electromagnetic energy. Normally, that energy is spread out evenly and does not cause problems. But if you introduce the right catalyst, you can trigger a reaction. All ships fire on the human vessel, Sarkesh ordered. Destroy him now, but Morrison was faster. Before the first weapons could fire, his ship released a payload into the surrounding nebula. Thousands of small canisters spread out in all directions, each one containing industrial chemicals that Morrison had somehow acquired during his travels. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The chemicals reacted with the ionized gas in the nebula, creating a massive electromagnetic pulse that spread through the clouds in every direction. The pulse hit Sarkesh's fleet like an invisible wave. On her command bridge, every screen went dark. Emergency alarms screamed. Backup power kicked in, but most systems remained offline. Sarkesh ran to the tactical station and pulled up a manual display. Report, she shouted. Shield generators are fried, her engineering officer reported. Sensor arrays are completely offline. Main power is fluctuating. Weapon systems are non-responsive. We are blind and defenseless, Commander. Through the forward viewport, Sarkesh could see other ships in her fleet tumbling through space, dark and powerless. The electromagnetic pulse had knocked out critical systems on every vessel. They were sitting prey, unable to defend themselves or even see what was around them. Then her communication systems came back online, running on emergency power. A message was broadcasting on all frequencies. It was not from Morrison. It was from someone else. Attention Council vessels. This is Commander Thek of the Krellian Liberation Front. Your fleet positions have been transmitted to us by an anonymous source. You are now in our territory, blind and helpless. We are coming to collect you. Sarkesh felt ice in her stomach. The Krellians, she had fought them in the wars years ago. The Council had bombed their colonies, killed thousands of their people. The Krellians had never forgotten. They had never forgiven. And now they were being given a chance for revenge. All ships, emergency protocols, Sarkesh ordered. Reroute all power to engines. We need to get out of this nebula before the Krellians arrive. But it was too late. Through the clouds of the nebula, she saw dozens of Krellian ships approaching. They were smaller than Council vessels, but they were armed and their systems were working perfectly. They began boarding the disabled Council ships one by one. Sarkesh managed to get her main engines working just in time. Her flagship and 2 escort vessels limped out of the nebula at emergency speed. Behind them, the rest of her fleet was being captured by Krellian rebels. When she finally reached safe space and could assess the damage, the numbers were devastating. 18 ships lost, thousands of crew members captured. It was the worst defeat the Council enforcement fleet had suffered in a century, and Jake Morrison had not fired a single shot. He had simply set the stage and let her enemies do the rest. As her damaged ship limped back toward Council space, Sarkesh replayed everything in her mind. Morrison had known she would set a trap. He had known where she would set it. He had prepared for it days in advance, and he had used her own strategic thinking against her. He is not running, she said aloud. He is fighting a war, and he is winning. The Council was in chaos. News of Commander Sarkesh's defeat spread through the government like wildfire. Representatives demanded explanations. Military officials scrambled to save their careers. And at the center of it all, Council Prime Zarnik faced the worst crisis of her long life. How many ships have we lost now? She asked her military advisor. 24 ships destroyed or captured, Council Prime, the advisor reported. His name was General Court, and he looked like he had not slept in days. Plus significant damage to 3 surviving vessels. Casualty numbers are still being calculated, but we estimate at least 4,000 dead and 8,000 captured. Zarnik closed her eyes. 4,000 dead. Because of one human. Because she had ordered his capture. What are people saying? They are saying we look weak, Court admitted. Other species are watching this situation carefully. Some are starting to question Council authority. If we cannot capture one human, how can we enforce laws across 1,000 worlds? Then we must end this, Zarnik said. Whatever it takes. Who is our best military commander? Grand Admiral Krelnox, Court answered immediately. He has never lost a major engagement. He commanded the fleet that conquered the outer territories. He is ruthless and effective. Send for him. Give him whatever resources he needs. Tell him to end the Morrison crisis by any means necessary. Grand Admiral Krelnox arrived at Council headquarters within 2 days. He was a Drakon, a species that resembled the dragons from human mythology. He was massive, covered in dark scales with eyes that glowed like red coals. When he entered the council chamber, other representatives instinctively moved away from him. Council Prime, he said, his voice a deep rumble. You wish me to capture this human? I wish you to end this embarrassment, Zarnik corrected. Capture him if possible. Kill him if necessary. Just make it stop. Krelnox smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. It will be my pleasure. But I will need authorization for expanded operations. What kind of operations? This human has been able to evade capture because he moves through populated areas, where we must be careful with our weapons, Krelnox explained. He hides among civilians. He uses civilian facilities as resources. To catch him, we must make civilians unwilling to help him. Zarnik felt a chill. What are you proposing? Give me authorization to search any human vessel or facility we encounter. If they refuse to cooperate, we board them by force. If we find evidence they have helped Morrison, we arrest them. We make it clear that helping this criminal has severe consequences. You want to punish innocent humans because of what one human did? There are no innocent humans in this matter, Krelnox said coldly. They are all the same species. If Morrison cares about his people, he will surrender to save them from hardship. If he does not surrender, then we will have eliminated his support network. Either way, we win. Zarnik knew this was wrong. She knew it violated the principles the council was supposed to uphold. But she was tired. She was angry, and she wanted this situation to end. Do what you must, she said quietly. Just end this. Krelnox bowed and left the chamber. Within hours, he had assembled a fleet of 30 warships. They were the finest vessels in the council military, equipped with weapons powerful enough to destroy entire cities, and he commanded them with an iron will. The campaign began immediately. Krelnox ordered his fleet to start searching human ships throughout council space. Cargo vessels were stopped and boarded. Their crews were questioned for hours. Their cargo was inspected item by item. Some ships were detained for days over minor violations. At human trading posts, Krelnox's soldiers arrived in force. They demanded access to all records. They searched every storage bay and living quarter. Anyone who protested was arrested for obstruction of justice. Then Krelnox made a galaxy-wide broadcast. His image appeared on every communication channel, every news network, every public screen. Attention all humans, he announced. I am Grand Admiral Krelnox. I have been authorized by the Council to apprehend the criminal Jake Morrison by any means necessary. Morrison has murdered Council citizens and destroyed Council property. He must face justice. Krelnox paused, letting his words sink in. If Morrison does not surrender within 10 standard days, I will begin targeting human colonies. I will blockade your trade routes. I will shut down your stations. I will make life very difficult for every human in Council space until Morrison is brought to justice. The suffering of your people is in his hands. The broadcast ended. Krelnox smiled, satisfied with his work. He believed he had just forced Morrison into an impossible choice. Surrender or watch his entire species suffer. It seemed like a perfect strategy. But Krelnox made a critical error. He did not understand humans. He did not understand that threatening one human's family makes them defensive, but threatening all humans makes them unite. For weeks, Jake Morrison had been alone. He avoided contact with other humans to keep them safe. He stayed away from colonies and stations where his presence might bring danger. He was isolated and running out of resources. But when Krelnox made his broadcast, everything changed. Morrison received his first message within hours. It was from a mechanic on a repair station called Gamma Base. The message was encrypted and brief. If you need parts or repairs, I can help. They cannot threaten all of us. More messages followed. A data analyst offered to leak fleet positions. A colony administrator offered sanctuary and supplies. A cargo pilot offered to share information about safe routes. Dozens of humans, then hundreds, reached out to offer help. On a frontier colony called New Boston, a woman named Lisa Carter watched Krelnox's broadcast and felt anger burning in her chest. She was a traitor who had never met Jake Morrison. But she knew his story. She knew he had tried to stop labor violations. She knew the council had ignored him until he was forced to act. She opened her communication system and sent a message to every human contact she had. The council thinks they can scare us by threatening one man. They are wrong. We need to organize. We need to help Morrison however we can. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Humans across dozens of worlds began coordinating in ways the council never anticipated. They shared information through encrypted networks. They moved supplies through hidden routes. They created safe houses where Morrison could hide and resupply. The council had made humanity into a target, and humanity responded by becoming an army. Jake Morrison felt the change immediately. His communication system was suddenly filled with offers of help. Maps of fleet positions, lists of safe stations, codes to bypass security systems. Humans he had never met were risking their freedom to help him. He sat in his ship staring at the messages and felt tears in his eyes. He had been so alone for so long. He had thought he was fighting this battle by himself. But he was wrong. You are not alone, one message said simply. None of us are. That is what it means to be human. Morrison wiped his eyes and began planning. If the council wanted a war, he would give them one. But not a war of weapons and ships, a war of information and strategy. A war where every human in the galaxy could be a soldier, simply by sharing what they knew. Krelnox's fleet began experiencing problems almost immediately. Ships arrived at coordinates where Morrison was reported to be, only to find empty space. Supply depots were sabotaged by mysterious equipment failures. Communication relays went offline at critical moments. The Admiral could not understand it. His ships were spread across a dozen systems, searching everywhere. But Morrison always seemed to be one step ahead. It was as if the human could see the future. How does he know where we are? Krelnox demanded. His intelligence officer looked uncomfortable. We believe he has help, Admiral. Human civilians are feeding him information. Every time we move a ship, someone reports our position. Every time we plan an operation, someone warns him. Then arrest them all, Krelnox roared. Every human who refuses to cooperate. Sir, there are millions of humans in council space. We cannot arrest them all. Krelnox realized his strategy had backfired. He had tried to isolate Morrison by threatening humans. Instead, he had united them. He had turned one enemy into thousands, and those thousands were teaching Jake Morrison everything he needed to know about council operations, ship movements, supply lines, and weaknesses. They were turning him from a fugitive into something much more dangerous. They were turning him into a symbol of resistance. Jake Morrison stood in the cargo bay of his ship, looking at the supplies that had been delivered by human volunteers. There were spare parts, fuel cells, food, medical supplies, and more. But what impressed him most were the data chips. Hundreds of data chips, each one containing information about council operations. Lisa Carter stood beside him. She had traveled 3 days to meet him at this hidden location, an abandoned mining station in the frontier territories. She was a tough woman in her mid-30s with short red hair and determined eyes. This is information from 200 different sources, she explained. Cargo schedules, fleet movements, supply depot locations, communication codes, anything we thought might be useful. You are all taking huge risks, Morrison said quietly. If the council finds out you are helping me, they will arrest you. Lisa shrugged. They are already arresting us. Krelnox's soldiers are boarding our ships and searching our stations. They treat us like criminals just for being human. So we figured, if we are going to be treated like criminals anyway, we might as well actually help you. Morrison smiled despite himself. How many people are part of this network? At last count? About 3,000 active contributors, but we have maybe 20,000 people who are willing to help in small ways, share information, provide shelter, look the other way at the right moment. Krelnox thought he could scare us into abandoning you. He made us angry instead. What does everyone expect me to do with all this information? Lisa looked at him seriously. Win, we expect you to win. You have embarrassed the council twice now. You have survived when everyone thought you would be captured in days. People are watching this, Morrison. Not just humans, other species too. They are seeing that the council can be beaten. They are seeing that you do not need a fleet or an army to fight back. You just need to be smart and brave. Morrison picked up one of the data chips and turned it over in his hand. The council has 30 ships looking for me now. That is 6 times what they started with. Eventually they are going to corner me. I cannot run forever. Then stop running, Lisa said. Start fighting. Really fighting. Use everything we are giving you. Hit them where it hurts. Make them regret they ever came after you. Morrison thought about this for a long time. He had been trying to stay low to survive to avoid causing more deaths. But the council was not going to stop. They had made this personal, and they had made the mistake of threatening innocent people. All right, he said finally. If they want a war, I will give them one. But I am going to need more help. A lot more help. Over the next 3 weeks, Jake Morrison transformed from a fugitive into a coordinator. Using the information network that Lisa and others had built, he began planning operations that would strike at the council's ability to hunt him. First, he targeted supply depots. Using inside information about security schedules, he would arrive when defenses were weakest. He never attacked violently. Instead, he would sabotage fuel processors, contaminate food supplies, or cause equipment malfunctions that would take weeks to repair. He made sure no one was hurt, but each depot he hit put more strain on the council fleet's logistics. Then he went after communication relays. The council fleet needed these relays to coordinate their movements across multiple star systems. Morrison would find relay stations in remote locations and use his knowledge of their systems to shut them down. Sometimes he would overload their power supplies. Other times he would introduce computer viruses that made the systems unreliable. Each relay he disabled made it harder for Krelnox to command his scattered fleet. The council ships began experiencing more and more problems. They would arrive at a depot expecting fuel and find the fuel contaminated. They would try to communicate with other ships and find the relays down. They would receive intelligence about Morrison's location and arrive to find it was false information, planted by human sympathizers. Grand Admiral Krelnox was furious. He paced on his command bridge like a caged predator. How is one human causing this much damage? We have 30 ships. 30. He has one small cargo hauler. He does not just have one ship anymore, Admiral, his intelligence officer reported nervously. Our analysts believe he has help from hundreds, maybe thousands of human civilians. They are feeding him information, providing supplies, and creating false reports to mislead us. Then we need to make an example, Krelnox decided. Find a human colony that has been helping him. Any colony. We will blockade it. Cut off all trade and supplies. Let them suffer until they give us Morrison's location. But this strategy failed too. When Krelnox blockaded a colony called New Boston, other human colonies immediately sent supply ships through dangerous alternate routes to help. When he blockaded a second colony, more ships came from other sectors. The humans were working together in ways that frustrated every attempt to isolate them. Meanwhile, Morrison kept hitting council assets. He had learned the locations of every supply depot, communication relay, and military facility in 6 different sectors, and he was systematically making them unreliable. The final confrontation came at the Arcturus Junction. This was a critical location in space where 3 major trade routes connected. Ships traveling between sectors had to pass through Arcturus to reach their destinations efficiently. It was the heart of council trade and military movement in this region. Krelnox decided to make his stand there. He gathered his entire fleet, all 30 ships, and stationed them at the junction. Morrison would have to pass through eventually. There was no other practical route for him to travel, and when he did, the full might of the council fleet would be waiting. This time there will be no tricks, Krelnox announced to his captains. We have enough ships to cover every approach. We have enough firepower to destroy anything that comes through. Morrison is finished. His ships took up positions in a defensive sphere around the junction point. Sensors were set to maximum range. Weapons were charged and ready. Every crew member was at battle stations. They waited. 2 days later, their sensors detected multiple ships approaching. Not one ship. Many ships. Dozens of ships emerging from faster-than-light travel simultaneously. Admiral, we are detecting 50 contacts, the sensor officer reported. All are civilian cargo haulers. They are surrounding our formation. Krelnox looked at the tactical display in confusion. 50 cargo ships. No weapons visible. No shields of significance. What was Morrison thinking? Then the communication channels opened. Jake Morrison's voice came through, broadcasting to every ship in the area. Admiral Krelnox, you wanted one human. You got all of us. Krelnox felt a chill run down his spine. All ships prepare to fire. Destroy any vessel that makes a hostile move. Before you do that, Morrison continued, you should know what these ships are carrying. We are not armed with weapons. We are armed with something better. Knowledge. The cargo ships began moving in a coordinated pattern. They were not attacking. They were positioning themselves throughout the area, creating a complex three-dimensional formation around Krelnox's fleet. Every human on these ships spent the last month learning everything about your vessels, Morrison explained. We studied your shield generators, your power systems, your navigation computers, your life support. We learned how everything connects, how everything depends on everything else. And we learned how to make it all stop working. Fire on them, Krelnox ordered. Destroy them now. But before his ships could fire, the cargo haulers released their payloads. Not weapons, materials, industrial chemicals, electromagnetic pulse generators, nanomachine clouds, and dozens of other tools that were perfectly legal for civilian use but devastating when used creatively. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Morrison and his volunteers had turned the space around Arcturus Junction into a maze of hazards designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in Council ship. Design's chemical clouds reacted with the specific fuel mixture that Council ships used, causing engines to stall. Electromagnetic pulses were tuned to the exact frequency that would overload Council shield generators. Nanomachines were programmed to attach to hull plating and disrupt sensor arrays. One by one, the Council ships began experiencing catastrophic system failures. Not from weapon hits, not from explosions, simply from the accumulated effect of hundreds of small problems happening simultaneously. A navigation system that received false readings, a power coupling that overheated, a shield generator that failed because its coolant was contaminated. Krelnox watched in horror as his fleet fell apart around him. 2 ships collided when their navigation systems failed at the same moment. 3 more ships lost all power and began drifting helplessly. 5 ships had their life support systems malfunction, forcing them to evacuate crew to emergency pods. "Return fire," Krelnox screamed. "Destroy those cargo ships." But his weapons officers could not get target locks. The sensor systems were receiving too much interference from the electromagnetic pulses and nanomachine clouds. When they did manage to fire, their aim was so poor that the shots went wide, hitting nothing but empty space. The cargo ships, meanwhile, seemed to dance through the chaos with perfect coordination. They knew exactly where every hazard was because they had placed them. They communicated through encrypted channels that the Council could not decode. They worked together like a single organism with 50 bodies. Krelnox realized with growing dread that he was not fighting one human anymore. He was fighting a coordinated network of humans who had studied his ships better than his own engineers understood them. Every weakness, every vulnerability, every design flaw was being exploited simultaneously. "Admiral, we are receiving damage reports from all vessels," his communications officer reported. The officer's voice was shaking. 18 ships are requesting permission to evacuate. 7 more have lost main power. The remaining ships are barely holding together. "How many casualties?" Krelnox demanded. "None, sir. That is what is strange. These attacks are not killing anyone. They are just disabling our ships. It is like they know exactly how to stop us without causing deaths." Krelnox understood then. Morrison was making a point. He could have killed them all. With 30 helpless ships floating in space, the humans could have destroyed the entire fleet. But they were choosing not to. They were showing mercy even while demonstrating their power. It was the ultimate humiliation. Jake Morrison's voice came through the communication channel again. "Admiral, I'm going to give you a choice. You can keep fighting, and we can keep taking your fleet apart piece by piece. Or you can withdraw, take your ships and go home. Tell the Council that we are done with this chase." "The Council will never stop hunting you," Krelnox said, though his voice lacked conviction. "They cannot allow you to go unpunished." "Then tell them this," Morrison replied. "We came to the stars looking for friends. We joined the Council believing in justice and fairness, but you have shown us something different. You have shown us that might makes right in your galaxy, so we learned to be mighty in our own way, not with ships or weapons, with knowledge, with cooperation, with the ability to turn any system against itself." Morrison paused, letting his words sink in. "We do not want war, Admiral, but if the Council keeps pushing, we will push back. And every time you send ships after us, we will learn more about how your technology works. We will teach more humans how to fight without firing a shot. Eventually you will realize that it costs more to hunt us than it is worth. Krelnox looked at his tactical display. His magnificent fleet was scattered and broken. His ships were dead in space or limping away on emergency power, and he had not managed to capture or kill even one human. "What happens if I withdraw?" he asked quietly. "You take your ships and leave," Morrison said. "We will not pursue you. We will not attack you. We will let you go home with your lives and your crews intact. All we want is for the Council to leave us alone. And if the Council sends more ships, then we will do this again, and again, and again, until the Council understands that we are not prey. We are not victims, we are humans, and we take care of our own." Krelnox made his decision. "All ships disengage. Begin emergency repairs and prepare for withdrawal. We are leaving." Some of his captains protested, but Krelnox overruled them. He had been a warrior for 50 years. He knew when a battle was lost. More importantly, he knew when continuing to fight would only make things worse. The Council fleet began its humiliating retreat. The cargo ships did not pursue them or mock them. They simply watched as the military vessels limped away from Arcturus Junction, leaving behind only debris and damaged equipment. When the last Council ship had jumped to faster-than-light travel, the 50 cargo ships gathered together. On every ship, human crew members celebrated. They had stood against the Council's military might and won. Not through violence, not through destruction, through ingenuity and cooperation. Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of her cargo ship, watching the celebration through her communication screens. She opened a private channel to Jake Morrison. "We did it. We actually did it." Morrison's face appeared on her screen. He looked exhausted but relieved. "You did it. All of you. I was just one person until you turned this into a movement." "What happens now?" Lisa asked. "Do you think the Council will really leave us alone?" "I do not know," Morrison admitted. "But I know they will think twice before coming after any human again." "We showed them something today. We showed them that humans do not need the biggest guns or the fastest ships to protect ourselves. We just need to understand how things work and be willing to stand together." News of the Arcturus Junction incident spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. The story was told and retold, growing with each telling. The Council had sent 50 ships to capture one human. Not one ship returned victorious. On the Council homeworld, Zarnik sat in her private chambers and read the reports with a heavy heart. The political fallout was immediate and severe. Half the Council wanted Krelnox executed for his failure. The other half wanted to send an even larger fleet. But Zarnik knew that neither option would work. "We created this problem," she said to her closest advisor. "We ignored legitimate complaints about labor violations. We used military force against someone who was trying to protect workers. We threatened innocent civilians to catch one man. Every decision we made was wrong. What should we do, Council Prime?" Zarnik thought about this for a long time. Finally, she made a decision that surprised everyone. "We issue a formal apology to the human species. We acknowledge that we handled this situation poorly. We offer to negotiate a new status for humans within the Council, one that gives them more autonomy and protection." "The Council will never agree to that," her advisor warned. "It will make us look weak." "We are weak," Zarnik said bluntly. "We just lost 50 ships to cargo haulers. If we do not admit our mistakes and change our approach, we will lose more than ships. We will lose respect. We will lose authority. Other species will see what humans did and wonder if they can do it too." The apology was issued 3 days later. It was brief but sincere. The Council admitted to mishandling the situation. They acknowledged that Jake Morrison's original complaints about labor violations were valid. They offered to drop all charges against Morrison and everyone who had helped him. More importantly, they proposed a new treaty that would give human colonies more independence and better representation in Council affairs. It was not everything humans wanted, but it was a start. Jake Morrison received the news while docked at a human station called Liberty Point. He read the Council's statement 3 times, hardly believing what he was seeing. "They backed down," he said in amazement. "They actually backed down." Lisa Carter was with him. She smiled. "You know what this means? You can stop running. You can go home." Morrison thought about Earth. He had not been back in 15 years. He wondered if anyone there even remembered him. He wondered if he could have a normal life again after everything that had happened. "Maybe," he said. "But first I think I need to visit some places." Check on the workers at those mining facilities. Make sure the council is actually following its own labor laws now. Someone needs to keep them honest, Lisa laughed. You never stop, do you? Stopping is how problems start, Morrison said. I learned that the hard way. Years later, the story of Jake Morrison became legend. Children across human space grew up hearing about the cargo pilot who fought the council and won. Military academies studied his tactics. Engineers analyzed his methods. Politicians debated the lessons of his rebellion. But the real impact was deeper than that. Humanity had learned something important about itself. They learned that they did not need to be the strongest or the most advanced to protect their interests. They just needed to be clever, cooperative, and unwilling to back down from injustice. Other species in the galaxy took note. The council became more careful about how it enforced its laws. They listened more to complaints. They treated member species with more respect. Because they knew that if they pushed too hard, another species might follow humanity's example. Jake Morrison himself faded from public view. Some said he continued flying cargo routes under different names. Others said he settled on a frontier colony and lived quietly. A few claimed he was still out there, watching over human interests, ready to act if the council ever forgot the lessons of Arcturus Junction. The truth was simpler. Morrison went back to doing